Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh, but I'm not going to be there today. Morgan Ortagus is making her debut as the host of the Hugh Hewitt Show. Morgan, thank you. Morgan, of course, former State Department spokesperson, star now of Fox News and many other great places. Take it away, Morgan, and have fun.
Well, thank you so much to my dear friend Hugh Hewitt. I am so honored to be hosting his radio show. I'm so glad that we have all of you listening in. As we've talked about since 6 a.m. Eastern, all of you who don't know me many of you know that I was the State Department spokesperson under President Trump and, of course, under our next guest, former Secretary of State, my former boss, Mike Pompeo. Sir, are you on the line?
Morgan, I'm with you. Good morning. Great to be with you today.
Thank you so much. Listen, I've talked about this all morning, Mike Pompeo. You gave me the dream job, the job that I always wanted to have, which was State Department spokesperson. And I got to travel around the world with you to over 50 countries. I counted, actually. And we did a lot together. But one of the things that I have not done, Mr. Secretary, is I haven't looked at the appendix yet of your book, Never Give an Inch, to see if I'm in it. So I don't know if I'm in it yet or not. I still have to read it. But for everybody listening who has not got a copy of your book, they need to get a copy of your book. I need to get a copy of your book. I better have a signed copy, sir. But tell us about Never Give an Inch and what's in it.
Well, first of all, Morgan, you did a fantastic job communicating our message, the America First message, on behalf of the president and me. I can't thank you enough for that. It was a hard work. It was a lot of fun, too. And we did good. I'm proud of what we did. And that's what the book's about. It talks about the way we put the American people first. It's a recitation of the stories, the history of what I did as CI director for a year and a half and then as Secretary of State for a couple of years, and how we thought about America's place in the world and how we never apologized any place we went. We defended the things that mattered, and we made lives better not only for the American people, but people all across the world. And of course, there's some fun stories. You'll want to check for your name, Morgan.
Good. Well, I look forward to reading it. I mean, listen, there's so much that we went through together. I did not have a global pandemic on my bingo card. I knew we'd go through a lot. I didn't realize how much we would go through together. But one of the nights that is, I think, maybe the most important night of my career was the night that we got Qasem Soleimani. I remember waiting for you at the State Department after we called jackpot, which means that we got Soleimani and he went to hell. So thank you for that. But what most of our listeners may not know is that was years in the making from when you were CIA director that you directed the CIA to start looking into Qasem Soleimani. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I want to transition to talking about what Iran is doing today in Russia.
Morgan, it was really special because we accomplished so much on behalf of the United States when we ultimately took Qasem Soleimani off of the risk profile. He was never going to kill another American. It was something that we all knew. We were watching Iran. We were beginning to lose deterrence. We needed to take back that deterrence model that we had with respect to the Islamic Republic of Iran. And so the president made a bold decision. A lot of work had got into it for years, along with some of our friends in the region, to be prepared for that moment. It was a good outcome. You know this, Morgan. He killed over 500 Americans. He was responsible for that. This was a righteous strike. And good news is, too, it restored deterrence not only against Iran, but Chairman Kim took notice. The Taliban took notice. Everyone understood that America was fundamentally prepared to defend the things that for years they had walked away from in the Obama administration.
Right, and that I think is so important. That's how you have real deterrence, right? Under your watch and under President Trump's watch, we did not needlessly or unnecessarily involve troops in wars, but we did stand up for ourselves when we needed to. And one of the things that we're seeing that has just killed me, Mr. Secretary, over the last 19 months, to watch Tony Blinken, now Secretary of State, and the Biden team beg and cajole and plead the oppressive Iranian regime back into a flawed nuclear deal, only to see today that they are reportedly going to send ballistic missiles to Russia. We're seeing their suicide drones, Iranian-made suicide drones in Russia today. What a catastrophe. What a calamity, sir.
Morgan, you traveled with me to the United Nations when we snapped back the sanctions to prevent exactly this moment. when the Iranians could sell conventional weapon systems around the world. And now we are literally not enforcing the existing sanctions, giving the Iranian economy a chance to rebound. It's going to grow. The Iranian economy will grow faster this year than the American economy. And
wow.
because they failed to understand how to impose the costs on the Iranian regime that are killing their own citizens. The brave women that are standing up in Iran are just remarkable. They hearten me. They encourage me. They are heroes. And this administration wants to sit at the table with the Russians as our intermediary and give them billions and billions more dollars with which to inflict the Iranian terror around the world. I must say, Morgan, there are times I can understand different viewpoints. I cannot understand the logic of what the Biden administration has done. It's not only empowered the Iranians, but we can see this. Our Israeli friends aren't confident in the United States, and our Arab Gulf friends won't even talk to us. This is the darndest thing. It is a reversal of all that we did to build out stability, peace, created the Abraham Accords in the Middle East. They've flipped it on its head, and that is dangerous for every American.
You know, there's so much I want to talk to you about, sir. I could go on the entire hour. This is Morgan Ortagus. I am in for Hugh Hewitt. I am Mike Pompeo's former spokesperson at the Department of State when he was Secretary of State. And I can tell you, one of the reasons I took the job, sir, with you was that I thought, well, how cool would it be to take 2 years and travel around the world with the Secretary of State? I was right. It was cool. It was amazing to be a fly on the wall. But I can tell you that I loved being a fly on the wall the most when we were meeting with the Russians. And we met a lot of people. When we were in Sochi and when Putin walked in the room, I have never felt pure evil the way I felt whenever he walked into the room. I mean, he made my skin crawl. And in meeting after meeting after meeting that I was in with you and Lavrov, their foreign minister, and the rest of the Russians, you stood strong for America. You stood firm. You held no punches. And I think that is a crucial reason why we did not see Russia invade on our watch. Why does this administration keep getting deterrence wrong, whether it's here or, God forbid, potentially over Taiwan?
Morgan, I think they fundamentally misunderstand the greatness and exceptionalism and the power of the United States of America. I truly do. I think they think we're not a force for good in the world. We should be careful because we should apologize for things we've done. Nations all across the world are just dying for America to do precisely the things you described. I remember that trip to Sochi very, very well. It was an important time in the relationship between the United States and Russia. We were trying to find little gap places where we could find a common ground. There weren't many that day. They were tough meetings. Poor Mr. Lavrov's now the longest-serving foreign minister in the world, I think, and I agree. I did not see Putin's soul in his eyes when we met with him. We saw an evil character who was just as intent on retaking Greater Russia that day as he was the day that we left office. The difference was, I think he respected the United States, our willingness to do the things that mattered to us. And when he observed, remember the beginning of the Biden administration, they shut down a pipeline in the United States of America, the Russians did, through cyber attack. Yep. And we couldn't move gasoline in the United States. And President Biden meets with Putin and says, don't do that again. And then, we bail on Afghanistan. We leave Americans behind for the first time in American history. I think when you stare at that, this changed Putin's perception of risk. And that's what deterrence is about. The bad guys have to perceive that the cost is too high. He didn't. And thus, thousands of dead Ukrainians as a result of Vladimir Putin's aggression. I regret so much. I think this is the most significant failure of the Biden administration's foreign policy is the failure to establish a deterrence model against bad actors like Putin, and I think Xi Jinping's watching too.
But I think you're totally right. What our listeners may not even know, and I hope you don't mind if I share this story because I'm about to, but the meeting between you and Putin almost didn't happen. Putin was running late, as Putin does. That. And everybody might famously remember that Putin was like, I don't know, he made John Kerry wait 3 or 4 hours when he was Secretary of State. He was running about a half an hour behind. And sir, if you don't mind me telling our listeners, you were running a little hot. You were running a little hot when he was running late. I went to one of Putin's aides and I said, listen, Mike Pompeo is not John Kerry. If you guys screw around, if Putin is much more late, he's leaving. I said, this is not a stunt. Staffer to staffer, please get your boss here or we're out. And you know what? Putin magically showed up a few minutes later because he knew that Mike Pompeo meant business. Now, sir, we don't have a ton of time left, but one of the things that the producers want to know is, I don't know why they want to know this, but they're dying to know what happened when I screwed up. What did you think? How did you fix it when I screwed up?
Morgan, you did it perfectly. In fact, I remember that you used an adult word there too, baby. You gave the G-rated version of that conversation.
Well, thank you to my boss, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. This is Morgan Ortagus. I was his spokesperson at the Department of State. I am on for the next hour, the next 45 minutes for Hugh Hewitt. We'll be back in a few minutes.